Well, this leads tonight following a two-day retreat on Johannesburg's outskirts. Leaders of the 10 political parties that constitute the Government of National Unity have now committed to prioritising key areas of focus. They've also signed newly ratified terms of reference for the GNU and the clearinghouse mechanism. Now, the areas of focus include the appointment of capable ethical leadership in the criminal justice system, the implementation of a comprehensive response to illegal immigration, and expanding economic opportunities for South Africans. So, with regard to the clearinghouse mechanism, its function is critical to ensuring the GNU is able to operate in line with the statement of intent. And they say it's aimed at addressing areas of possible divergence, basically disagreement, within the Government of National Unity. The meeting, by the way, was attended by, as I was saying, the leaders of these 10 political parties in the GNU. From the ANC was President Cyril Ramaphosa, his deputy Paul Mashatile, the DA's John Steenhuisen, IFP President Velenkosini Hlabisa, the Patriotic Alliance's Gayton McKenzie, the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Corné Mulder, was also in the room, as was the UDM's Bantu Holomisa and Rise Mzansi leader Songezo Zibi. For Jama-ah, Hendricks was also at the retreat. For the PAC, Mzwanele Nyhontso, the leader, was there, and the Secretary General of the Good Party, Herron, attended on their behalf. Let's talk further then about the outcomes of this meeting. Bring into the conversation political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Welcome back to the SABC as always, sir. So the GNU then, in the statement released at least from the presidency today, we're told is united and strong. But how true a statement is that when you consider the events of the last year and a half?
Look, I think it's normal, where there are human beings, there are problems. I don't think that there's a coalition arrangement anywhere in the world that doesn't have ups and downs. So I think people need to be realistic. So I think because coalitions by nature are underpinned by power sharing, you have to have meetings of this nature to continue framing the developmental trajectory of the country. So it doesn't mean that because, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the GNU, but I'm just looking at this as someone who's an analyst. It doesn't mean that because they speak the same language, there will be no conflict or ups and downs. But I think what they have done is to draw lessons from some of the failed coalition arrangements, in particular at local government level, because they've been unworkable. And I think they want to avoid that. That it doesn't mean that because they disagree on certain issues, therefore they must walk separate ways.
They don't just disagree, though, Professor Breakfast. The DA, for instance, has in fact gone to court against the same Government of National Unity that it is part of over issues such as the Expropriation Act. The Employment Equity Act as well is subject to litigation. So that's more than just friendly disagreement, robust debate, if you will.
Yes, but those are ideological issues. For instance, the DA embraces the whole notion of being a colorblind, that have to transcend beyond racial classification, therefore must do away with a triple BE and the Employment Equity Act, and they've also rejected the budget on the basis that they don't support expansionary fiscal policy. So to me, those are more ideological issues. But again, that is normal, because if you bring political parties from different walks of life, obviously you are going to have clashes, right? But I think they've done the right thing by coming up with this conflict management mechanism to de-escalate the conflicts so that the country can have a step. Because if they don't speak the same language, obviously that will have a spillover effect to government departments, and meaning that people are going to be on the back foot in terms of getting services. So it's important that at the political level, they speak the same language, they function as a unified force, and by so doing, that will spill over positively to the administration of the country.
But do they have, I wonder, equal to lose, equal things to lose, more the same thing, shall we say, at risk if the GNU is not effective, it's not coherent, it's not cohesive? Are there others, for instance, in the GNU who've got a lot more riding on its success right now, with future elections especially on the horizon?
Look, the ANC, I think, has everything to lose, given the fact that it is the one that has been in power since 1994. That's why it has tried its level best to make the GNU to work, because also it has an upper hand in terms of the percentage that it got. And also, if you look at the discourse of development that has been framed, it's a discourse of the ANC. I don't think there has been much that has changed in terms of policy. I mean, for instance, if you look at even our foreign policy, the same foreign policy that we had when the ANC was in power by itself. So the ANC is the one that has everything to lose. But also there has been, I would say, politicking, where you find that when the GNU does something that is off the mark, the DA will say, well, it's the GNU. But if a particular member of the executive does something good, the DA will say it's the member of the DA, because they want to leverage on those positive things that they do. So you have those politics at play.
One of the things that the ANC had said it was open to, in fact, it was possibly going to pursue, was the addition of other people or other parties within the government of national unity. That comes with its own problems, because, for instance, we know the DA has made it clear that there are certain organizations that it simply would not be willing to sit around the same table of governance with. Does this statement suggest to you that the door on the expansion or reshaping of the GNU is effectively closed?
Of course not, because I think the ANC has been in pain because of the posture of the DA, because they've been pulling in different directions. You've seen, for instance, the DA framing a discourse that this is not a GNU, but a coalition arrangement in the main between the ANC and the DA. And therefore, the ANC has been trying to debunk that myth by opening up the space to other political parties to join the GNU. And by so doing, I think they're trying to weaken the DA so that they don't get hamstrung by the DA. I think they felt embarrassed when the budget was rejected by the DA, and now they want to be circumspect.
And very briefly, Prof, if you can, there are about 8, I think, focus areas or areas of priority laid out in the statement that we've now seen today. They include things like focusing on urgency in the implementation of government programs, a comprehensive response to illegal immigration, for instance, appointing capable ethical leaders to the criminal justice system. That's key when you consider the work of the Madlanga Commission, creating skills development and livelihood opportunities for young people, and so the list goes. Of those things, are there any low-hanging fruit? How much of that list can actually be put into action successfully before the end of the GNU government has come to, before the end of the term, rather, for the GNU government?
There are issues which are still hanging. For instance, the issue of appointing people in the public sector on merit, cadre deployment. The DA has been vehemently opposed to that. They even took the government to court. So it's going to be interesting how that is going to play itself out. Even on the question of a developmental state, I'm not sure if the DA supports that because they believe in a fiscal discipline. Remember, the DA has been concerned that government spends more than what it has, which is budget deficit. So that's another issue. So they don't speak the same language, but I think they understand that for the GNU to work, they have to compromise.
Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast, good to talk to you on the back of that, the end of a 2-day retreat that was held by the 10 members, the leaders of the 10 parties that form part of the Government of National Unity.